Hey, what's up guys? My name is Andres. Welcome to the first video of this channel. This channel is dedicated to helping digital nomads, van lifers, however it is that you travel, or people that are aspiring to live fully remote and helping you guys make more income while you're traveling through various means. Okay, so I'm going to share in this video how I got started in remote selling and how sales doesn't need to suck. And how I was able to go from kind of being broke in my van to making consistent 8 to 9K a month, which I then transitioned to working a more part-time schedule, making a little less money, but having way more free time on my hands to travel and honestly to surf a little more. So in this video, I'll be sharing how I got started, how you guys can get started if it's something that interests you, resources that I recommend, a lot of free stuff that's out there that can help you on the journey, or for people that are in career transitions. This is for you, and feel free to leave any questions in the comments. We'll see where it goes. Okay, so remote selling, it's not a novel idea, right, to be a salesperson that works remote. But why I think it doesn't suck is because, at least for me, when I started in sales like years ago, I was doing cold calling or door knocking. I'm just like, dude, I don't ever want to do this again. And I think there's a lot of people that have negative experiences of what sales looks like. MLMs, calling your friends, slinging something, Herbalife, or trying to sell something solar to everyone you know. And not knocking that, I'm just saying. And people have all these like negative experiences. Or you've been on the receiving end of a really bad salesperson that's just trying to get you, buy their product and super aggressive about it. But the new way of selling, and I think there are two things. One, I think there's so many companies out there that are really good at their marketing, have their shit together, have already existing audiences of people that want to buy from them, or have a really good lead gen process. And they're just looking for someone that can conduct the conversations with their prospects and help them make a decision that's going to actually support them. And when you align with a service or a product that actually excites you, and you look at the sales conversation not as I'm trying to sell this product to this person and get their money and make commission, but I'm actually here to help this person make a decision that's going to impact the rest of their life, makes those conversations enjoyable. You can just actually conduct more of those a day without feeling burnt out, and they'll just be more consistent at closing, and you'll make more money because you make commission, right? And some of these roles, when you start, you'll probably be on commission only, especially if you're new to this. Once you prove yourself, have a track record, it's a lot easier to negotiate some base salary plus commission if that makes you feel a little more secure. Or if you're just a savage, and you want to make more on commission, it's so much easier to get a role. Why I think sales is the easiest thing for people to get into is because you're positioning yourself as an asset that's going to help an entrepreneur or a company bring in more revenue, right? So while sales is the easiest thing to get into, right, you don't really need like schooling or education or that much experience. You just got to be hungry, can communicate pretty clearly. But I will say getting good at sales and mastering sales does take consistency, does take a lot of investing in yourself, or really preparing, so you can get better, so you can make more sales or work with bigger companies, that are more confident in bringing you on. Because crappy sales reps can really put a company in harm's way, right? If the company's feeding you leads, especially if they're feeding you leads and they're paying for it, right? And you're not closing consistently, you're costing the company a lot of revenue and putting them in a pretty, tight spot. And especially once you start looking at bigger companies, bigger contracts, bigger products that you're selling, if you're not consistent, a company's going to be very hesitant in saying, yeah, we're going to want you to represent us on a $400,000 deal, for example, when your skills aren't there. But that's for another video. So anyway, how I got started selling in the personal development space, which I really aligned with, men's work, emotional intelligence work, and stuff that I've invested in myself. That's really helped me in my growth. And I was really excited to find companies that were out there doing that. And so you can start by just going on different Facebook groups, right? And you guys are probably already getting like ads from coaches, or friends that are coaches, or spiritual healers or whatever, because it's the new trend. But you can find so many of these existing companies on Facebook and really see if any of them like align with what you want to do, right? Maybe if you're a female that you've gone through many relationships and you've learned a lot around that, you want to work with a company that helps other females find or attract a partner. Or maybe you've built businesses and you're excited, and you want to help people and their business growth. Or if you're like me, I'm selling for a men's work and masculinity offer now. It's something that I've invested a lot in myself because I think men should always be doing that. If you can't tell by the books behind me, I don't know if you can see in the video. So I'm working with this men's coach who has a huge audience, who has published a few books, has done really well in building that community. So I'm going to be helping him get his time back by taking all the onboarding calls for him. And I'll share a little bit about how I got started with him. But there's so many of these groups out there. Facebook's, a lot of the more cold cut business consulting companies are on LinkedIn. But that's the best way to start, is to make a list of like 20 of these companies that excite you about what their mission is. And most of these companies, because I've worked with a consulting company that has helped a lot of them, on the back end, they're small teams. They're always looking for win-win new staff agreements. And that's where you could potentially come in, right? Now, part of it is you got to be good. And if you're starting to get your skills honed, there's still opportunities for you to get started as what you call an appointment setter or an SDR, which is where I started as well. When I worked with my past consulting company, they gave me a 2-month trial. Like, energetically we vibe, but they're like, we want you to see if you can prove yourself. So the first month, I actually didn't get paid salary, but I got paid commission. And my job was to go through this company's existing audience. They had like 7,000 people in their Facebook group, and start conversations with people that already knew who they were, and see if they were ready to potentially have a conversation about working with us. And I'd ask them some questions and make sure that they would be ready for that conversation, right? No one likes hide and seek salespeople, right? And then I would then pass them on to the closer, right? After a month, they then gave me a base salary of $2K a month plus commission. So I started to make anywhere from $3,500 to like $4K a month, just being an appointment setter, which was almost double what I was making with my previous startup. I was making like $1,500 a month. It was a total. But I was living in my van, so I was still able to get by. But I was really ready to start making more money and start planning for my future and helping my family and all the things. And so I started to get some traction that way. Okay, and I did that for like 5-6 months, and really started learning from the closers. And so for you guys that might feel like, hey, this actually, I'm a people person, I have a lot of energy, I'm hungry, I want to make money, but I also want to be able to like control my own schedule and be able to work remote, which is most important. What I would recommend is, there's also so many Facebook groups around people that train salespeople. Most of these, almost all of them are free, okay? Sales Sniper, Cole Gordon, these are a bunch of guys that have big Facebook groups, and they share so much free stuff. And I learned a lot from them early on. They're likely, their systems are pretty dialed, and they'll probably try and sell you on their coaching program, which some of my friends have gone through, and they've had like excellent, they've seen results very quickly. So, but just to let you know, like, that's how Facebook groups kind of work, right? Because if you're an SDR, you'll also be doing that. But there's a lot of free resources there. Some of those groups too, once you've shown face, you've consumed resources, some of them, if you're actually really hungry, they'll help you find a position and they'll represent you. And I'll put some resources in the chat for some of the people that I know that will do that. But again, when you're getting started and you don't have sales experience, you can still get started as a setter or SDR, right? And if you do have experience, you can get started as an AE, account executive, or a closer if you do have some form of track record. Okay, so that's how I got started. After about 6-7 months, I stepped into an AE role. I was responsible for closing. I negotiated a $3,500 base salary plus a $500 stipend, we called it, that was used for office rentals, because I was traveling all over Central America, all over the country for the last 2 years. And the company, essentially, I negotiated they would pay for my office rentals. Okay, and so I have taken calls out of my RV and stuff, and it's cool. But I think, especially as you're getting started and you want to own your skills, it always makes sense to rent an office for a few weeks, for the week or for the month, depending on where you're traveling. It's not that much money, but you can really focus. You don't have to worry about the Wi-Fi cutting out. And I highly recommend that because it helped me feel very grounded and focused. And when I was traveling out of my van, it helped me separate my living space from my workspace because I don't like mixing those. Okay, so I was able to negotiate that salary, and with commission, I was making anywhere from 6 to 7 to 8K in commission. You get taxed pretty heavily on that. We won't go into that. But yeah, I was averaging anywhere from 8 to 10K a month doing that. Now, I will say, at that caliber, there's salespeople making way more than that, but at that caliber, it was a very intense 40-hour work week. And I caught myself a few times, especially when I was traveling. We went to Hawaii for a few months. There was a few days that I was on back-to-back calls and I was just fried after, because it takes so much energy, right? When you're on a real deep, meaningful sales conversation, you're not just pushing a product, you're really helping someone understand their limiting beliefs so they can make a decision that's going to help them in the future. Obviously, your product needs to be able to deliver results. The one you're representing. And so I caught myself in a few days feeling really fried, and I was like, dude, I don't want to keep doing this. And so what I ended up doing was negotiating with the CEO at the time and saying, look, I still want to represent you, I still want to sell for you, but this workload isn't working for me. And I feel like if I continue this way, I'm going to lose out on some sales, which means you're going to be paying for marketing, your sales rep isn't going to be performing, and it's going to be a lose-lose. So would you be open to, if I transitioned over the next 3 to 6 months to a part-time role where my base salary would look like this, and I would be responsible for anywhere from 8 to 12 calls a week, right? And I could help you bring on and train another sales rep that can ultimately be your full-time closer. And that agreement worked really, really well. I took on less calls per week, but I closed more consistently because I was just able to do more stuff that I enjoyed, right? I was able to surf more. And when we went to Central America after, I'd have 1 or 2 sales calls for the day. Out of those 2, I'd close 1. I'd make $800 or $1,000 in commission. And I'd be like, cool, I'm done for the day. Let's go surfing, right? Or let's go travel, or let's go out to dinner, let's do this, right? And for me, I had already saved up some of a little bit of a cash pile. So that felt really aligned to do that for 6 months to a year. I'm actually still working part-time because the money was still good, right? It wasn't 15, 20K a month, but I was still averaging around 6K a month working part-time, working under 20 hours a week. And for me, it just felt way better to have more time in my control to go out and do the things I want to do. Now, I will say, in full transparency, I do have other forms of income now. Okay, I have a business that's remote and on autopilot. I'll make another video about that. And I do have some other ways that I make some passive income. But for you guys getting started or looking at how do I become a digital nomad, I think this is the easiest or most direct way to get started, to build up your cash pile, right? To feel secure in your ability to financially provide for yourself so you can't keep traveling. And then with the money you're able to save up, you can invest in either starting your own business or in different types of assets that can create cash flow for you. So you can have your savings account or whatever it is slowly growing while you're still making your money through your day job. And of course, most importantly, traveling. Okay, so I know I'm spitting a lot. I hope all this is supportive. One thing I would also say, as you're joining these different groups or network, please network. It's the most valuable thing. I have 5 friends, really close friends now, that are all in sales roles, right? And when I left my past consulting sales rep gig, I messaged all of them. I'm like, hey, I'm on the market again, looking for something outside of business coaching, looking for something that's part-time, looking for something that's ongoing. And within like 1 to 2 weeks, one of my friends reached out to me and said, hey, I know someone that does men's work. They have a great audience, great marketing. They need someone that's going to do, up to 25 hours worth of sales calls a week, which is about, in my opinion, like 16 calls a week, with onboarding and all the things. And that's looking for at least like a 2 to 3 month initial contract. And I was like, dude, that's me. That hiring process was so straightforward because not only was I referred by someone that person trusted, but I also showed up to that conversation with a track record and said, yep, this is what I've done, this is what I can do for you. And you're not like in this position of like, I really hope this person hires me. You're like, no, this is what I can do for you. This is what I've done. This is my track record. Do you want to work together? This is what I would be looking for in the most ideal work relationship, so I can perform at this level and you can see an increase in this revenue, right? So it's a different level of confidence. So that's why I landed that job. Again, with all these like different groups on Facebook or YouTube, you'll meet other reps, right? A lot of them will post when they need SDRs or when they need another AEs, but also network with them, connect with them, ask them how they got started, right? Keep those conversations, nurture those connections for 2 reasons. One, when you do land a sales job, right, and you have someone that you can't really help, it's so easy to refer them to a friend that you know that might have a more congruent offer, and you'll make a referral fee on it, right? So you'll still have a possibility of making some money on a sale that you don't close. But 2, when you are looking for an opportunity or looking at transition to a different job or different industry, it's so much easier, okay? So I hope that all makes sense. This is like, I know, like a brain dump on how I got started. Sales isn't for everyone. Naturally, you do get to be a people person. You do get to be energetic, charismatic, right? But anyone can get into sales if you really want to. Okay, I have friends that have transitioned from, engineering careers and things like that into sales because they wanted something a little more free to be able to work off their laptops, and they're crushing it. They're making a lot of money, right? But it's not just the money that why I really like the career path. It's the ability to, when you're really honed in your skills, to be able to work your own schedule. And that's what was really good for me again, is that I was able, I spent the first year, I worked pretty damn hard. I got really good at it. Again, there's a bunch of free resources on YouTube, on Facebook. Way of the Wolf by Jordan Belfort is a great read if you're getting started. Great read. You should get the audiobook actually. It's like what, $5, $10? And then having the track record to like confidently negotiate works really well for you. And again, the reason I'm sharing this specifically for you who's a digital nomad that's looking for work, or you want to work remote and you don't know how to get started, like thankfully, like one of like the blessings in disguise of COVID was that there's so much more remote opportunity, right? But again, I think sales is a very, like, there's not that many barriers to entry. Let's be honest. Like, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to be able to get a sales job, but it will take consistency and learning a lot on your part to get good and get consistent at it, so you can continue to grow and so you can work your own schedule, if that's ultimately what you want to do. And I'll share, 2 years ago, we were traveling all over the country in my van, in my camper van, and it was so cool to be able to take calls in my van, right? Just be so confident in my process. And like, if I was closing 3, 4, 5 people a week, right, that was $800 in commission each, right, out of a total of 10 sales calls, right? So I was really only working 25 hours a week, So I was really able to enjoy like my lifestyle fully and be where I was, right, while also keeping my expenses low and still, be able to save a good amount of money. And now I'm transitioning into this other offer, which should drive about the same amount of commission. But again, I negotiated with him. Hey, look, I operate best when I take no more than 16 to 20 calls a week, right? I know with that amount, I can confidently, bring in this amount of revenue based on your marketing strategies, right? And if that doesn't align with you, if you want someone to just be all in, like maybe, makes sense to look for another rep. And he was like, no, actually, that really makes sense to me. I'd rather have you around longer term than just come in for a month or two and burn yourself out and then leave. So I hope that helps. Feel free to ask me any questions. I know there's a lot of context I might have missed. It's my first YouTube video, and there's just so much that I can't share, but I don't want to overwhelm you. Leave some comments if this does help. And in other videos, I'll be sharing how I've then reallocated some of my savings into some pretty cool accounts that generate really healthy interest, like anywhere from 8 to 10% in interest that compounds monthly. How I started one of my water sports companies that is like fully remote and pretty much passive at this point, that does around 30 to 40K in profit a year, operating for 6 months. And then some of the other businesses that I now have started that allow me to have more income streams. So I only need to really work part-time. So I can surf more, travel more, and do the things that excite me. And if you're someone that's just hungry to work 40, 50, 60 hours, like, dude, that's totally awesome, right? This channel probably isn't for you, but there's a bunch of others out there that will support you in like really honing that hunger and making more money. So I don't know how to end this, so I'm just going to end it. Thanks for watching. All right, cheers.